Greetings, everybody. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Wanted to get on and go through some information and expose the surname for what it really is. See if I can make sure I got all my stuff up here. We want to switch that around, I think. Okay. I think I got it all set up. Okay. So, let's get started, folks. Everybody knows that I ran about the birth registration and everything and the surname and all this. So we're going to give you the sermon tonight. The Sur-man. See, everybody's born as a Sur-man. And we're going to start out with my research. I started out wanting to know what the people have as an access to Congress. And this is what I come up with: building access in hours. And so upon my researching this, I was down here all the way at the bottom, and I come across this. Copyright. So I clicked on copyright, and this is what it gives me. Except as otherwise noted in this website, all of the content of the website constitutes a work of the federal government under sections 105 and 403 of Title 17 of the U.S. Code. If you have any questions about the use or attribution of any content on this website, please contact our office. Okay? So, when it mentions 105 and 403 of Title 17, we look them up, and the first one, 105, subject matter of copyright, United States government works. Okay? Subject matter and scope of copyright. And we go down, and it says, in general, copyright protection under this title is not available for any work of the United States government, but the United States government is not precluded from receiving and holding copyrights transferred to it by assignment, bequest, or otherwise. So see, the United States doesn't actually hold a copyright. They don't have protection. It is not available for any work of the United States. Copyright protection is not available for any work of the United States. It is not precluded from receiving and holding copyrights transferred to it by assignment, bequest, or otherwise. Copyright protection of certain of works subject to subsection C2, the covered author of a covered work owns the copyright to that covered work. So, if the copyright protection under this title is not available for any work of the United States, who is covered as an author? In this sense, it would be anybody but the United States of a covered work, because obviously the works of the government are not covered. Okay? Copyright protection under this title is not available for any work of the United States. The covered author who put in all the work owns the copyright to that covered work once he realizes to cover his work. Now you can read the rest of this when you want. I'll give you the link, of course, but this is the thing I want to point out in tonight's video. Defense Language Institute. Put your children in this public education. And it's all based on a defense language institution. Okay? Now watch. Chapter 7, or Title 17, USC Section 403, Notice of Copyright. Publications incorporating United States government works. Publications, the certificate of live birth, and the birth certificate incorporating United States government works. The birth registration is a work of the government, United States government. And the publications that they use incorporating that prove that they have an interest in it. But you have to give them notice of your copyright. They're not protected by the copyright. You are. You're the one that gave them all the data elements through the registration by depositing those data elements and failed to give them a notice of copyright. Okay? This is done through hypothecation of customer securities. So, the same goes for the state. See, the state doesn't have any ability or protection of copyright, because it succinctly wasn't granted to the states through the 10th Amendment or any state legislation. It's distinctly extended to the author. The one that authorizes. No matter what the words are on it, the one that authorizes it is the true author. They're deemed to be competent and know what was on there. Yet it even says in the UCC 3-402 that the authorized representative giving an unambiguous signature on the instrument is therefore not liable for the person named in the instrument. Why is this? Because the person named in the instrument isn't protected by copyright. Only the covered author is. The state can't authorize it. They can only hypothecate it. And see, now that we realize that neither the state nor the United States has an interest in the copyright, other than the fact that the natural living soul, the man that uses it, who is inherently and ultimately and supremely authorized to do so, without need for justification or commercial mechanisms. So anytime the state brings a claim, hypothecation of customer securities, because they have no interest, the United States has no interest, and we know this because there's no protection under the copyright. Okay? U.S. Defense Language Institute. Defense Language Institute Foreign Language Center. This here is the Presidio of Monterey. Presidio of Monterey. Oh, let's talk about UNC, University of North Carolina, School of Government, Knapp Sanders School of Government. This is University of North Carolina. This is an institute in North Carolina known as a School of Government, wherein they teach those languages. Government language, political correctness. Okay? This is University of North Carolina. That Presidio Trust, or Presidio of Monterey, that's another one. United States Army Garrison Presidio of Monterey. The United States Army Garrison Presidio of Monterey is located roughly 117 miles south of San Francisco, California. The Presidio is the home of the Defense Language Institute Foreign Language Center, a training school for military specialties. Military specialties. The Defense Language Institute Foreign Language Center, a training school for military specialties that require foreign language education in any of the Presidio's 8 language schools, as well as an emerging language task force. Okay? University of North Carolina School of Government is the same kind of institution. Same kind of institution as an Army garrison. As I told people, the post offices are inland marine stations staffed by U.S. Postal Service personnel. University of North Carolina is an inland marine education center staffed by United States, what would we call them? Professors, personnel, educational personnel. Still an inland marine station, a military base. Using defense language, legal assistance office. You suppose that's the defense language? Writing wills, understanding rental contracts, dealing with creditors, preparing and filing income tax returns, counseling on divorce, advising on civil suits, preparing powers of attorney, performing notarization. You suppose if you're not in that military force, that you wouldn't need a notary, you wouldn't need a set of records, you wouldn't need to file taxes, you wouldn't need a job, say employment. You'd be able to do his good works, which are profitable among men. See, when we fall to that military jurisdiction and start letting them determine how we traverse and transit throughout our lives as transitional beings, then that's when we fail to realize that we are sojourners and strangers with him. We give up his presence. He's omnipresent. Yet we seem to think we can give up his presence, when that's all we need to let them know is that, hey, you forget he travels with me? Did you forget your oath? Did you forget under your military law that you subscribe to, that you are responsible to one another and to God? See, that's what proves that they must be the insane one if they forget such simple meanings, such simple concepts. And this is what we have to realize in this stuff. So let's continue on. The next one, Presidio Property Trust. Yes, they have a property trust. Pacific Oaks Place, headquarter address. Escondido, USCA, US. US-CA, US. External public records. And it tells you their cage code, LEI, all of it. You can look them up, find out what they are. Got their reports. Various different Presidio properties that are sub-organized. And here is their SEC, S1. Okay? And what I want to do is I want to go down here, I want to show you a connection in the wording. Unless otherwise indicated, all references in this prospectus to dollars and $1/ are to US dollars. US dollars, and all amounts in this prospectus are presented in US dollars. Real quick, before I go on any further, this is something I wanted to do a video on. I told people before I was going to do a video on a bunch of Investopedia definitions. So let's go real quick to a couple of them I looked up, and I want to show you the importance of our research here. This is USD. What does USD stand for? USD is a currency abbreviation for US dollar, the official currency of the United States of America. USD, and the world's primary reserve currency. Primary reserve currency is based on the commodities in stores, supply and demand, elastic currency, inelastic, all of that. USD. Look at this. What is the USD? United States dollar. USD, United States dollar, is the official currency of the United States of America. United States dollar, or US dollar, is made up of 100 cents. It is represented by the symbol S, or US dollar sign, to differentiate it from other dollar-based currencies. The US dollar is considered a benchmark. Very important. Benchmark. Trademark. Copyright. I've spoken about the all mark. We're talking about names and all that. So anyway, let's get back to it. So we see, unless otherwise indicated, all references in this prospectus to dollars and dollar sign are U.S. dollars, and all amounts in this prospectus are presented in U.S. dollars, which means United States of America. Okay? In this prospectus for Presidio, Apollo means Apollo Global Management, together with its subsidiaries. And Apollo, within this document, when you read this document, you'll see that Apollo consumed Presidio. And Presidio is now a part of Apollo Global Management, LLC. IaaS refers to infrastructure as a service. Now, I want everybody to remember the New Deal. When the New Deal was instituted for the infrastructure as a service, and they put to work many unemployed people and paid them through the infrastructure fiat currency that they instituted at the same time. This is when they abrogated the gold clause and instituted the Federal Reserve notes as a fiat currency, and it was an infrastructure as a service. And part of that infrastructure employment service, you got paid per diem on a weekly basis through Federal Reserve notes. Okay? Which is a standardized, highly automated offering where computer resources, this is today's, back then it would have been definitive paper resources. Today it's where computer resources complemented by storage and networking capabilities, storage, warehousing, and distribution and delivery capabilities. Material substance is work as opposed to electronic storage today, are owned and hosted by a service provider and offered to customers on demand. Remember what I said, the supply and demand. If you quit demanding what they're supplying, which is a fictional basic set of data elements to use for some kind of profit, and continue on the path of doing good works, or doing his good works, which are profitable on demand, then you won't be taking advantage of your fellow man to gain that profit. And that's a problem with their infrastructure. You have to work specifically for them to be eligible to be paid by their system. If you're accepting the pay by their system, then you get granted a volunteer service to their infrastructure and subjected yourself to their funny money. It's just a bunch of colored money under color of law, and it has no real value. Again, when I go through these Investopedia definitions, you'll see that a fiat currency is just the paper that the shit's written on. It has no real value. None. And that's what they're using today. Around the world, you notice the United States, the national currency of the United States of America is the reserve currency of the world, and it's based on the documentation of the stock markets for the sales of commodities. Period. And the rates of the commodities are dependent upon the contracts for the performance of the services. Period. You got to be involved in it. If you're not involved in it, then you're not required to be licensed. You're not required to purchase. You get to chase in your natural element. So let's get on with it. The next one, they list it right in the United States Code. Parks, forest, and public property. Because that Presidio Trust, as it occupies the space of the land, it does not own the land. It is merely public property that exists on the land. The land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine, and ye are strangers and sojourners with me. In all of the lands of your possessions ye shall grant a redemption. Just important to realize they know this stuff. It's in their public documents. Okay? Their public contracts. And like I said, this is an SEC filing. This is an international document under the law of nations, which is a public law. They have to present this information. All you got to do is read it and find out. That's what they're telling you. Service provider. Who's the service provider? In this document, the documentation of the government is provided by the Department of Defense. It's the birth registration. All of it. From the certificate of live birth issued at the hospital and recorded at the county register, and then implemented or imported through the Postal Service to the Secretary of State as a document for them to hold at the Bureau of Vital Statistics, which was run through the Chamber of Commerce and is regulated by the Department of Commerce. It's a commercial instrument, and you are authorized to use it, and using that authorization by a signature. You are not liable for the person named in the instrument. It's not there. You cannot be held liable. Neither can they. It's the record. That infrastructure as a service. That record is in error. That service record is in error. You shouldn't be part of their service. You're supposed to serve Him as prophets unto the nation, sanctified and ordained. So again, we see the Presidio Trust in the U.S. Code, and this is the regulation CFR. And then we go to CFR 1012, 36 CFR 1012.9. What criteria will a Presidio Trust consider in responding to my TOWIE request? And before we get on to the TOWIE request, here's that Global Management Inc. It's incorporated in the state of Delaware. And it's in the business of investment advice. Not ownership, not documentation. So these guys have no real liability as advisors. Period. That's all they're doing is giving advice. What is giving advice? Does a teacher give advice? He's educating them. How they interpret it is up to them. These guys are just giving advice. Is an alternative investment manager. Manufacturing and industrial, natural resources. Human resources are natural. It even tells us, 7 U.S.C. 136 definitions tells us animal. Animals are natural, right, folks? I mean, it's got to be a natural resource if you're going to use their hides to make coats. The skins and oils and all of that, meat, those are natural resources. They're known as such through their commodities. In that definition, it says including man. Man itself is a natural resource. Remember this, people. And you're under global management if you don't know how to manage yourself. So let's get on with it. The next one is Apollo Global Management, LLC. Our AUM measure includes assets under management. The human resources are assets under management. Okay? Apollo ESR. All kinds of good information. Refers to the assets we manage. You give them those data elements, those are considered collateral, or capital, which is a valuation that has been placed on assets. If those assets don't exist, where does that valuation come from? And that's why I say the human resources, the labor, the documentation that you gave them, and gave them a per diem of hours, which gave them a valuation. You got to quit doing this stuff, people. Under security in industry classification, 622.1 commodity contract brokers and dealers. That's what these guys are. These are commodities brokers and dealers. Their location. Let me see here. Where did I find this location? This is... Where was it? That one. Maybe it was Presidio. No. Was 24th. Who was it at this address? I'll have to find out again. Oh, maybe this was the Bitcoin thing. I'm sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't have included this. This was a Bitcoin thing. And their address is at the Mathematics Museum. So anyway, back to it, folks. As I explained, it clearly tells us in the 36 CFR, or excuse me, 17 USC 105 and 17 USC 403 that the United States has no protection of copyright because they have no right to copyright. And if they didn't have that power delegated to them in the Constitution, the state can try to take upon that right, but it doesn't exist because they can't qualify as a copywriter, just like the state of the United States can't qualify as a copywriter. They have no protections as an author. They are only delegated authorship through a legislative body. Think about it, folks. One more time, I wouldn't be doing it if it weren't for you guys. So think about this stuff. Like I've said, copyright is unnecessary. Things that are patent falls right in line with what is done is what ought to be done. There is nothing new under the sun. Those that have the eyes to see will see. Those that have the ears to hear will hear. Open up your minds and open up your hearts. Start listening to them and quit listening to the government. It's lying to you. Don't believe it. Excuse me. I stated that wrong. Don't believe the government. It's not correct. Don't believe me. I may not be correct. Don't believe your mother. Quit believing shit. Do your research so you know. In the meantime, again, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. God bless. Love you. Have a great night.